everyone, and welcome to my podcast or video. I'm helping someone at the moment fight a legal battle regarding disability discrimination, and I've decided, because I did a law degree and I'm qualified in law, I've decided that I'll write a book on what I've learned. I mean, obviously since I've learnt the legal system and qualified in law, a lot has gone down. I did my law degree before Brexit, and even that was controversial at the time, and things are really heating up right now, especially surrounding the law. But then I do believe that we should be going through the legal system to fight our battles. I think it's pointless going on protests. When I did my law degree, I would say about over a third were Asian immigrants into the country. So you can see that there are people coming into the country learning the law so as to change our common law and case law, which you'll learn about in here in this book. You'll also learn about a lot of the changes which happened after World War II, and I have all these changes with the German unification and what happened after. I have my thoughts about that, but I haven't added that to these books. Also, you see, Bleak House, Charles Dickens. I have always believed that Charles Dickens and the like were propagandists to change the direction and the narrative of society. So, and I've written about it. I'll probably put it up in a Substack on Cafeed podcast, Substack. I've also written quite a few pieces exploring these sorts of things, and I will go into all of this a lot. I'm going to call them chapters, with a lot more detail, and I've got a lot to do here with regards to ensuring that that you're learning everything that your opponent will be understanding and learning. Bearing in mind that a lot of the case law which I used in my course was round about the time when I was studying, which is round about 2013. So it's quite old in that sense, but then we've got a lot of things which have happened since, which have really turned the way that the country's going in. I've put some activities in there as well, so that you can just use those activities to see if you're understanding what I'm writing. You should be able to. And obviously I need to do a little bit of work on this. So far, chapter 1 is 7,000 words. Chapter 2 will likely be the same, but chapter 3, see, after the first 2 chapters, it's going to get a little bit more detailed, and they start to increase. So I suspect that book 1 will be approximately 150,000 words, something like that, maybe, or 100,000 words. So it's going to be a big book. The second book will go into greater detail on what I've already done here. I really do think that people are going to have to fight back through the courts. And one of the reasons why I think that is because in chapter 2, I talk about devolution, where we had the governments for new governments built for Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And they did a referendum on this, And there was only I think 30% vote 30% of the population casted votes, yet they have been forced into the governing situation with regards to Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland. What I mean by this is, perhaps even if people are not voting, maybe it will be very different if it's Westminster, but people are not voting, yet they're still accepting these devolved governments to lead them. And that is shocking. And you know, I'm not criticizing individuals here. I mean, I've not really considered it, and even when I did my law degree, I thought, wow, that's terrible. But I still think that these governments will be writing all these illegitimate laws. And obviously the legislation, you'll learn later on that the legislation takes a hierarchy to the common law. And this is why I'm going over again my law degree, because you don't learn anything about common law, really. You learn about case law, but I'm talking about, there were massive changes in 1800. Where is it? It was round about here. Oh, here we go. This, yeah, the Supreme Court of Judicature Acts of 1873 and 1875. That established the unified court with jurisdiction over both common law and equity. Common law and equity principles now operate together. And I would like to investigate the law prior to these changes to see what was happening then. We're going to see that the law was significantly changed around about this period of time, especially when they have their propagandists such as this dude. So I'm going to write up my law degree, what I learned, all the notes that I took. That's why you see all this unit stuff instead. I'll write it into chapters, obviously. And the reason why I did a law degree was because I took on my own legal case. I self-represented, and that will be loosely covered in this book, but I will go in depth into that court case in a separate book because it deserves its own separate book. It was actually multiple cases that I had to do there. I won them all, and I also set precedents. So I would say that I'm pretty competent here in self-representation, especially when you learn what it was that I was fighting. When you're reading this is what I did when I did my law degree. When I was reading it with my own legal case in mind. Now, you may have one legal case you want to bring, or you may have multiple. And all these sorts of things came up in my court case. They're completely irrelevant to the argument, but I wanted to make the case anyway. And this is the thing with being represented. They won't raise all these issues. These lawyers, they're not going to raise you issues that are irrelevant to the law or to the legal issue. And the reason why, one of the reasons why I took my own case, is because I wanted to raise awareness within the court system that they were an unfair system. They were unobtainable. You know, we're supposed to have access to the courts, but we have to pay for the courts, but we're paying tax. You know, and the tax is supposed to pay for the courts, so how is that making justice accessible? It's not. So I wanted to raise all these issues with our legal system, with their claim, but we had access to justice, which we don't. or if we've got to pay for it, and this shouldn't be how it operates. I see the public sector as one big racket. It's just a profit-making machine. I was watching Falling Down last night, and he's stuck in a traffic jam, and he goes off his head about the scam behind roadworks and all of that. And it's a great movie. It's a really, really good movie, and you should watch it. But the reason why it's so important, I think, to take on your own case is because you will be able to make these arguments intelligently as well through the court system, and shame the courts, so shame the public sector. It's failed us, so shame them. And you won't get that with legal representation. I've seen multiple people who are claimed to be in the conspiracy realm or the alternative media who are going to court, and for whatever reason they haven't self-represented at all. I think Richard D. Hall, he's being represented, and then he's complaining that his lawyer's not saying the things he wants them to say. Then why didn't he should have known that? Why didn't he take the case up by himself? What I find with the alternative media is that there are a lot of complainers and whingers, but very few are actually doing anything. And I thought I'd do this, bring to you the information that your opponent has learnt and understands, so that you're looking at it from two perspectives. You're looking at it from your own perspective that you want to self-represent, and you are going to play the courts in your own way through your own style of representation. Because quite honestly, why shouldn't you bring your own style in? I did. So you should bring your own style in. Make it more humanitarian, rather than this technicality system. Systems based on technicalities are not fair systems for the most part. I can understand that there's fairness to a degree, but much of our law is based on technicalities, which is desperately unfair. And these technicalities make it very difficult to understand. And that in turn prevents people trying to get justice. So book one is the basics, and I do write in very easy to understand language. I'll probably change the font. There'll be book one, which is sort of introducing you to the elements of the law. There'll be book two, which expands on that. Then there'll be different books thereafter focused on your area of law. So contract, land, tort, public law, all those sorts of things, which, I think that we'll be needing in the future. Now the price will probably be, let's have a look, around about, for a paperback it will probably be around about £23. For a hardback it will probably be £50. But I will do paperback as well, so that it's a lot cheaper. And there'll be multiple books, so probably about six books. I will be going into the history, and then after that I'll be looking into these sorts of things. This is why I have this huge interest in history. It comes completely from the study in law, and one of the most shocking moments I had with law, I'd been taught in school that the World War II was a land grab, and I'd always believed that. And then I did my law degree, and I learnt that it was a ideological war. And that was shocking to me. I had no idea. And when I was at school, we didn't really have the money to buy books, new books. So we were using the antique books that my parents, grandparents gave to them. They've since been chucked in a bin, but I've become quite obsessive with them now. I'm really interested in the 1800s books, and I'll be showing them later as well. But I'd be writing my history essays using my parents' grandparents' books, and I'd be getting really shouted at in the classroom because I was providing the wrong, so you know, in quotes, the wrong information, and it left me desperately unhappy and sad because they were really shouting at me. Obviously, those teachers had gone through the universities, they'd been trained in their ideology themselves, and they were intending to maintain that. But I hated that I wasn't allowed to use my own books. It really irritated me. Like, how can you say that certain books are correct and certain books are wrong? That made no sense to me at school. You know, I really didn't understand why there was this thing about science. You know, the Nazis were said to have done all these lampshades with human skin and things like that I was taught in school, and I thought, wow, this is so disgusting. Why do people trust scientists? It makes no sense to me. And so science continued. There was other things relevant to the Nazis as well, which was shocking. Medicine and all of that. Democracy. How did people continue to trust in democracy when the people of Germany voted in Hitler? You know, why do we still vote if that can happen? And you know, I was a questioning child, and that was annoying to school teachers and stuff. But I think there's, you know, I don't think I'm the only one. I think you are, and probably were, questioning children in school as well. Anyway, with that in mind, if you are questioning, then you're probably thinking, why the hell can't I just take on my own legal case? Well, you can, and you should. And I'm just here to show you what it is that your opponent has learned so that you can go in understanding what they know and then bringing in your own method as well. Not to mention, this tactic is probably very unsettling to them also, so that's why it works so well. What I will say is, when you're learning the law, you will notice that the law is sort of, in a way, the case is accepted as unchanging by the students, so by your opponents, which you don't work on that basis when you're self-representing, and that's where your legal arguments come in. So you are very important in changing the direction of this society in this country and the Western world. You're not going to get heard about though, and that's the thing that I'm quite concerned about. Your cases will be kept on the file, but the mainstream media will not be talking about it. It's very doubtful. And the alternative media just will not talk about it either. For the most part, the alternative media only reports on the mainstream media, so it definitely won't be heard by them either. I've tried turning to them. They just are so disinterested, it's unreal. They really don't see the benefits of this at all, and of fighting your own legal battle. It's quite sad, really. So I am going to do a law degree for you in multiple books, and you'll probably be able to buy it on paperback for probably, you know, altogether probably £300, something like that. If I do it on ebooks, that's probably even cheaper, which is £12, so that would be about £60 altogether for all the books. So you won't get a qualification at the end of this, you won't get a law degree, but you will get the same understanding as those on the law degree. I think law degrees cost about £30,000 at least these days. So £60, £300, that's not bad, so that you know what your opponent has learnt in the past. That's good, I would say. It is simplistic writing. I am writing it so that my own son could read it, and his friends, and he's in secondary school, so it is intended so that those in secondary school can read it. Hopefully, if they enjoy it and are interested in it, then they may also go to law school afterwards, who knows, and start being a competing or a challenge to those huge numbers who are going in, learning it from different backgrounds, who are immigrating over here and want to change our country and society to suit their needs and desires and ways of life. So I don't really see why we need to change our way of life for them if they've come here. And so I would love to see kids taking on the law again, going into the legal system, fighting, but maybe fighting from a different perspective, not from this corrupt perspective that we have right now. So it is intended to be understood by younger sort of kids, the basic layman, which was exactly what I was. I was a beautician prior to that. It's supposed to be ideal for them. I'm not sure if you can read this and say, yeah, this is something that I could understand. I don't know whether it's something that you'd want to read. I'd recommend you read it because, we're on our own right now. We're fighting this, and we need to... I'm trying to do it as cheaply as possible for people. I'd say £12 for a book, for one book on the law of the basics. A basic overview is pretty good, but it depends on whether how really people feel about fighting back. And like I said, riots, protests, voting, I don't believe they're going to work. I really don't. So I think that the only way is through the legal system, through the court system. And I hope people will look into this and try and move forward in this respect. Anyway, I just thought I'd let you know where I am, what I'm doing at the moment. This is just because I'm helping someone represent their own case, and I'd like for other people to sort of learn the law also. Okay, I just want to help people. I want to change our country the way it's going. I think that we can do it. I want to try and make it as affordable as possible. I'll write an introduction. I haven't got an introduction here yet. I'll write an introduction. The introduction will let you know that you're going to be thinking about your legal situation, your whole entire situation, while you're picking out the laws which you need. You will have case law in here, but it will be outdated probably. It can still be relevant. It's just a case of whether new precedent has been set since that court case. So you'd have to check up on that. And this book will show you how to check on that and how to check on case law. You'll have a lot of history to explain where our laws and our government have come from. I'm going to be doing more dedicated research into that and the history of that later on after I've written these up. And then with that in mind, I think that I'd like to help people fight back, hopefully at a reasonable cost. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think that we can do it. There is this one channel, very, very small numbers watching him, and I find him very interesting and good. He's called That Guy Scott Webb. I mean, he does do a lot of stuff on the Daily Mail, which, Daily Mail articles, which anyone can pick out and just read themselves and see the comment section. So it's, But he talks about other things as well, and he does talk about how we're in this situation because people want to be entertained, and then through that entertainment they find idols. I think a lot of people are seeing what the problem is. They're seeing that this issue is arising within the country, and then they're watching alternative media as the answer, if you will. And it's not the answer, because then you start to idol worship these other people, like, that Jones guy, his offshoot, what's his name, Paul Joseph Watson, is that his name? I don't know. Anyway, you end up watching them, idolizing them because they're outspoken about it, which is what you want to hear. But then you just turn into a new form of entertainment rather than fighting back. I found that I was watching a lot of following a lot of alternative media, just in the hopes of big changes happening, and I wasn't really doing anything other than that, and it's a bit ridiculous, really. It doesn't make sense. We need to be getting our acts together in this situation at this point now. It's not good enough, I don't think, to just be aware of the situation. I think that you have to, if you genuinely are concerned, then you're going to have to find the strength and courage to fight back. And I'm not talking guns and violence, I'm talking loading your head with information, constructive information, so that you can bring it to the courts, so you can bring it to their attention in a legitimate way. I have come across people who have said, no, we can't go through the courts because this is a fake system, the act, and they are common law people. And I do agree with the common law people, I do, but we are still in a system whereby the majority of people who still exist do not believe in the common law system. They believe in this new system of governing through legislation and excessive legislation. We have to use their system to turn it back to the old system. Just as they did it slowly, we will have to do it slowly, but I think that we'll be able to get it done a bit quicker than their gradual changes. And there's claims that those people who have been taking the vaccines and stuff, that things are going to happen to them, maybe they'll die. That's what's being claimed and things like that. Well, that might be the case, but I'm not entirely sure whether it is. And these people are still leading us down a path of this tyranny, this dystopia, because they think that they're really good followers of what the media has ordered, and they believe in this new legal system, and they don't believe in the common law system. So it's going to stick around, and they're really happy to do this. They're happy to go down this path. They think they're good people for it. So yeah, we are in a very, very difficult situation right now, and we do, I believe, need to start fighting back. And this is my way of helping, I hope. I hope that you find this useful. I hope that it's not a wasted book, that people will actually use it. I'm sure that some celebrity alternative media person will find, do it as well, and then people will go to them. And that's fine, go, as long as you're doing the fight in a legitimate manner, then, take whoever's book you want and everything. I'm just letting you know that I fought my own case. I'll explain the situation on the back of this book and the second book, and probably all of the books. My book, The Greatest Fight, it's a novelette that has some of the arguments that I've made, and it is relevant to my own case. So if you want to have an idea of what I went through and what the court case was, that is probably a good place to start. Although I've got to say it's loosely based on my own situation, although I brought in other facts from other people's situations, similar situations, into that book. And then I'll do a written book about it later on. But I'd like first and foremost to focus on these laws. Edward Snowden, you see, that's 2012. There's probably been whistleblowers from governments since, but I could have a look into that and try and update it a little bit. Otherwise, I may just add questions saying, consider what's happened since. How bad has it got since 2012 with free speech? Because I think this one's all about free speech, right? What is it? Is it fair? Oh, right, okay, yeah. So this sort of talks about the free speech bit later on here. Anyway, we will get to that, and I will expand on this. This is like an introduction, then I'll expand on it so that you'll be able to hopefully self-represent and feel comfortable doing that. We'll see. Anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe and share. Bye.